Hi everybody, and welcome back to the Science of B2B. I'm Kerry Cunningham. I am the head of research and thought leadership at 6 Sense, and I'm a former Serious Decisions and Forrester analyst. Today, we're going to continue our intent data series. We've had a couple of episodes on that so far. Today, I want to address something that I wrote about for the first time almost 2 years ago in an article for TechCrunch, but I know that most of you haven't read that, unfortunately, so we'll talk about it here. And that's a thing I call Signal Substitution Syndrome. I love little names like that. Signal Substitution Syndrome. Here's what that is. And as far as I'm aware, this is one of the oldest, most pernicious diseases that B2Bers have. And that is, each new signal that comes along and becomes available to us, we look at it as a substitution for the thing that we're using now. So a great example of that would be MQLs and then intent data. When intent data came along, a lot of people looked and still look at it as a substitute for having MQLs. If I have intent data, now I'll use that to direct my BDRs and salespeople and send them over to the accounts that are surging instead of sending them MQLs. Or maybe I'll send them both, but I won't connect them at all. Sometimes I have an MQL, sometimes I have intent data. Or I might hear, we really like G2, or we really like Trust Radius, so that's what we use instead. We don't do MQLs anymore. Or a lot of people use syndicated content leads because there's generally a lot more of them. Or I use this source, or I use that source. And the problem is the word or. Instead of thinking about one signal and then maybe this one's better, or maybe this one's better, I tried that one, I don't like that one, that didn't work. What we need to be thinking about is what we've been talking about in the last couple of episodes, triangulating on the accounts that are in market to identify those accounts where we really need to go, put our best foot forward, and identify where a buying opportunity is. So if you've got a third-party intent signal, that's great. But if that's all you have, your success rate in sending your reps into those accounts is going to be very low. It's going to be bad. It's worse than having an MQL. Now, if you have an MQL from an account and it's a good account and you send your reps in there, the rate at which that turns into an opportunity that closes is between 1% and 3%. That's also terrible. If you don't score the leads at all and if you don't do any filtering of them, it's going to be much lower than that. It's going to be worse than that. If you're looking at syndicated content leads, those are generally even worse than that in terms of their conversion. Less conversion from that. Some people have said, well, okay, we're sophisticated. We're going to look at the anonymous web traffic on our website and we'll send our accounts or send our sales reps into those accounts. Okay, also terrible conversion rate, and reps don't love it because they don't have a name, right? The point is we need to take all of these signals and combine them together. All of the signals by themselves are awful. They're dreadful. They're terrible. But when you combine them, when you bring them together and triangulate on the accounts where you see the most and the best signal, then you start to have not a terrible signal, but an amazing, great, phenomenal 10x, 20x better than any one of the signals by themselves kind of signal, right? So we've had and still have in many cases signal substitution syndrome. What we really need to have is signal combination syndrome. We need to bring those signals all together. Now, many of you are asking, well, how do I do that? You don't. This is what AI is for. The AI is really responsible, and that's what we need to understand to be able to combine all of those signals in a way that's going to make sense. And then the great news about combining all of these signals is out of that, we get one signal that says this account is in market. Now, you may have another signal that says this is a great fit account, but that's a completely different kind of signal. What we're talking about now is, are they in market or not? So, signal substitution syndrome, if you have it, please get over it. There's treatment for it. The treatment is just think about these signals as different perspectives on those accounts that we need to bring to bear all at once to focus ourselves on the set of accounts that really are in market. All right, so next time I'm going to talk more about how we identify where an account is in their buying process and why it's so important to do that. But for now, please come to our website, 6sense.com/research, and you'll find all of the research that we do there. Our buyer experience study, where we found out that 84% of buyers are making making their decisions before talking to sellers. You'll also find our buyer identification study, where we talk about why we know, for instance, that marketers are only about 40% of marketers are using intent, only 30%-ish think it's valuable, only 30% are using de-anonymized web traffic, and less than that think it's valuable. Why is that? Well, signal substitution syndrome is the reason I have in mind for that. It's not the signal, it's how we're using it. If you're using those signals independently, then you're not going to find them useful. They're going to suck. That's it. But if you bring those signals together, now you can get tremendous value out of them. All right. So the great news is you're probably already spending money on a couple of these signals. What you really need to do now is bring them together with AI, and that AI can help make us very, very clear about which accounts are in market. All right, so that's it for today. Thanks very much for coming to this episode of the Science of B2B, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.